that I'm going to take his spot today so that he can have an easy ride today. So with that, we are going to call the meeting to order. And first up, we are going to have, bill requests, because this is a forever committee. Does anyone have bill requests? All right, seeing none. We will move into the hearing on HB 2790. And Revisor Heim, Mike, please do the honors.
Mike Heim with the Revisor Statutes Office, Madam Chairperson and Committee. This bill establishes the Born to Invest Act. It authorizes the state treasurer to determine data necessary to distribute information material and describe the availability and purposes and advantages of enrollment in 3 different savings programs. Trump 530A account, a new one where you can get $1,000 contributed for children, an education savings program, and an ABLE savings program, which deals with persons with disabilities. The data that they can get includes the name of the child, the name and mailing address of the parents or legal guardian, the date of the child's live birth, and so on. The state registrar of vital statistics shall provide the state treasurer data relating to children in Kansas who were born and so on after July 1, 2026, and are currently eligible for these government programs within 90 days of the issuance of a certificate of live birth, and the registrar shall provide the state treasurer with data relating to the children in Kansas born. The treasurer is authorized to share materials with the Department of Administration Division of Printing for the purpose of distribution of information materials. And the Secretary of Health and Environment and the state treasurer can enter into an interagency agreement to carry out the provisions of this bill. It's basically a vehicle to provide information to get out to people about these 3 savings plans. And the state treasurer is here and others that will get into the weeds.
Thank you, Mike. Do we have any questions for the revisor? Seeing none, thank you very much. First up, we are going to have State Treasurer Stephen Johnson. Welcome to committee, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am Stephen Johnson, State Treasurer, and thank you to the committee, the Chair and Vice Chair for taking time to consider this matter. So you have a very capable revisor who has perhaps briefed a few bills before, so you have all of the information before you. I want to tell you just a little about the why and the how of what we have in that bill. So in the Office of State Treasurer, we have a few plans that give families the chance to plan and save for the future. And some of those tools help strengthen the financial security of children just from the very beginning of their lives. So many of you are familiar with the 529 accounts for education. Hopefully many of you are familiar with the 529A, the ABLE accounts for those with disabilities. Those are very important plans that we have, which make a huge difference for those individuals with disabilities. You'll hear some additional testimony this morning. One of the particular things as we move to the Section 530A, so again, 529, 529A, 530A, and of course the 530A is the Trump account. So, and each of them has a few different rules. The one bridge that exists at age 17 is the ability to convert from a Trump account to a 529A. So you'll hear a little bit more about that in testimony this morning also, and the importance of how that works together. So House Bill 2790 specifically authorizes Vital Statistics to share information with our office so that we can share information with those families. What we find is that despite the availability of the programs, the awareness and implementation of the programs can be a little less consistent. So how do we make people aware of that, and in particular, aware at those very busy years, those first years of a child's life, about those tools and make sure that they take advantage of them, and even more, know which ones they may want to use and focus upon as they move through planning for education, for retirement, and other things. With the accounts, I've looked at that stuff for quite a while, which has been fun. You all have done that as well. But it was interesting as I looked at the concept of the Trump account, the impact of compound earnings in the stock market out of the gate is really powerful. I knew compound interest matters, et cetera. So I'm going to walk through one of the examples just to illustrate if someone took advantage of the Trump account out of the gate and got that $1,000 invested. And if each parent put in $5 a week to that account until they were 18, the account would be worth $24,000 at age 18. But if the child took that over, continued that account in an IRA until age 65, and continued putting $5 a week into it, it would be worth just over $1 million. A big change in terms of planning for the future, whatever that goal is. But the impact of planning immediately, and even more than that, using the market rather than other potential returns. Remember, I mentioned that pattern of investment at 8% would be worth $1 million. At 3.5%, the type of return I might earn in Social Security, for example, it would be worth $105,000. The impact of starting early, of getting invested and learning about how to use the market as a tool can be really powerful. Since the tool exists, our office is asking to work with Vital Statistics just to share some information and make sure people know about that opportunity. We know many people who are financially savvy are likely to take advantage of it. Can we make sure that other busy Kansans just have a chance as they're working through their busy lives to take advantage of that impact of compound interest and plan from the beginning? So that is what we are asking for, and I welcome questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you, sir. And since you have somewhere else to be, we're going to go ahead and do questions now. Committee, do we have any questions? Representative McNorton.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Stephen.
Perfect.
So if they have the Trump plan, can they have the 529 also, I guess? Is that, can they have all three, I guess, or if they wanted to?
So, yeah, great question, and they could. So, absolutely, many people, I think, would want to have the Trump account because of what it offers out of the gate. And the 529 can be a great solution for education because withdrawals are tax-free on the earnings. So if I'm planning for education, the 529 is still a very good tool for that goal. And then, of course, the ABLE plan, should someone have a disability, they may focus on that one before they necessarily do the 529.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Oh, Representative Howell.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make sure I understand this. So the $1,000 to seed money, so to speak, to start the account, that comes from the Kansas State General Fund, is that correct?
So thank you for the question. And the seed money is actually federal. It is part of the bill that the administration worked through to put $1,000 in from the federal government and the program is federal. So that applies to children born between 2025 and 2028 currently. So anyone born since January 1st, 2025, if you go through Form 4547 on income tax, fill that out to set up the account and check the boxes on line 6 and 7, if you have a qualifying birth within that age, the $1,000 is added at the federal level. There's an additional seed money which came from the Dell Foundation, also national. It applies by zip code. It is for zip codes. I can't quote the exact amount. It is most zip codes in Kansas except some in Sedgwick and Johnson County. That is $250, and that is for those children who do not qualify for the $1,000 until I think it's $6 billion that he put in is exhausted. So those are the two seed funding sources in the Trump accounts.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Humphreys?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So just looking at the bill, reading the bill, it seems like the gist of the bill is that you determine the data that's necessary to distribute information, and then the Registrar of Vital Statistics works with you to get that information, and then you put it in a suitable form to publish it on your website. But so what are the plans, or what's, kind of what's the plans? Seems like the bill's about getting the data, deciding what data is necessary, and then sort of what's the next step after that?
So
in
thank
reading
you.
this bill.
I'll reread the bill and see if there's any reference. Publishing it on the website is not an intent of that, but it is to use that to reach out directly to those folks, just to provide them the information and options that are available. The data would still be very much protected as we move
This
forward.
is in section E.
Okay.
The state treasurer shall maintain information regarding the availability and purposes and so on. To ensure that Kansas families are aware of the accounts, the state treasurer shall publicize the information on the state treasurer's website and through financial literacy educational training. So, I mean, I'm not trying to go different than what you think at all. I'm just really trying to understand what the gist of the bill is.
So the information that we intend to publicize on the website, and perhaps we should work to have an amendment to clarify that, is the information about the account availability and the rules. That would be on the website and through mailing to that information that we get. It would not be the data of the individuals.
Right. No, just about the accounts that
Correct.
are available.
Correct.
Yeah, I understood that. I just was curious. And then your fiscal note was very modest.
Correct.
So that's appreciated.
So what we were working to do, oh, thank you. If I may add a little color to that comment, what we were working with is the 529 plan side, and we will fund it from our marketing resources on the 529 to inform folks about both ABLE and Trump accounts, and then lay out when someone might want to use each one of those. So that's where those funds will come from, or the marketing dollars on the 529.
Representative Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Treasurer Johnson, again, thank you for the testimony. It's really appreciate this, but I'm just a little surprised this would actually be a bill. I mean, it's just, you're just wanting to do some advertising. I would think the list of children, I mean, I know private marketers, can send people things for diapers, and I mean, they seem to be able to find out where the newborns in Kansas are. Can you, I sort of elaborate on why we actually need a bill for this?
So thank you, Representative. And the question is making sure that it is clear that Vital Statistics can share that information with us, and it actually directs them to do that. Sometimes there isn't certainty about whether information can be shared between agencies, and we always want to be careful about protecting the data. So our ask is the access to that data.
Representative Osmond.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for your testimony. Correct me if I'm wrong, because as I read through this, so you're asking for the for the ability to go to Vital Statistics for information for children born on or after January 1st of 2025. But as I look at 530A of the federal code, it talks about the Trump account is created and organized for in the United States for the exclusive benefit of individuals who have not obtained the age of 18. So why is it we're not reaching out to everybody that's covered under the Trump account in the federal code? Why are we limiting it like this?
Yeah, so thank you for the question, and I'd be very open to the direction of the committee and the legislature. The reason that we looked at those births after January 1 of 25 is that's the group that is able to access the $1,000 in seed funding from the federal government, and that was the group that we wanted to make sure was really aware of it out of the gate. And in any case, I think we would focus there first and then perhaps broaden it, but that was the group that we had most wanted to reach in that the opportunity is the greatest for that set of children, but would be very open to broadening that if that direction was given.
Representative Corbett?
Thank you, Chairman. Looking at your 529s and your 530s, looking forward, could the Treasury Department here put out kind of like a social media page that we could share with our constituents with just these 529 availabilities? So if someone calls us, we don't have to go back and try to find this bill, but just a little tidbit so we can maybe share it as we go on and at least pass it on when we see people.
Thank you, Representative. Yes, I appreciate the idea. So, and we will, when we create that, we'll share that so that you all will know where that resource is available.
And without seeing any other committee questions, and I know you have somewhere to be, how many other states are already bought into this?
So great question. And so far, we are fortunate to have some folks in the Treasurer's office who spend a lot of time thinking about stuff. So other states are now copying this concept, but it came from the brain of Tom Tracy, and he has been spending a fair amount of time with Treasury and the White House on how do we not only make them available, but address sometimes the bigger challenge of understanding and awareness. So we're excited about being able to do it, and I don't think anybody will be able to be faster than us from start to implementation.
I appreciate that, and that does not surprise me at all. Thank you so much for joining committee today.
Thank you.
All right, committee, since we did ask questions of the treasurer because he had somewhere else to be, we are going to go through the testimony now and then ask questions at the end. So make sure that you jot down who you have a question for. So next up, we have Adrian Olnick. And I hope I got that right.
There we go.
Welcome to committee.
Thank you, Chairwoman Schmoy and members of the committee. I'm Adrienne Olnick, Vice President of Kansas Action for Children. So while you heard a lot of good information from our state treasurer, I'm going to double down on why this bill is really important for kids. As you heard, an incredible opportunity is now available for every new baby in the United States born between the beginning of 2025 and the end of 2028. And that is the $1,000 initial investment in a 530A account or a Trump account. And as you heard, there are even some private matching dollars available in certain circumstances. Kansas also has a strong investment option for kids in the 529 account. My kids both have one, and they just rebranded to Quest 529. They were formerly called Learning Quest accounts. And then you'll hear more about the ABLE accounts for those with disabilities. So what House Bill 2790 would do is create that infrastructure and that data sharing agreement that would allow the state treasurer to send information to parents of new babies about all three of these accounts. We believe that would eventually improve the financial outcomes for thousands of Kansas kids by ensuring that their parents are well informed about these early wealth building accounts. New parents are navigating so much change, and plans for investing in their child's future can easily be forgotten or just put on hold. And many parents may not even be aware that these options exist, making it even more critical that they get information as early as possible. I want to tell you just a little bit about the impact of early wealth building accounts. I highlight a report in my written testimony from the Aspen Institute in which they estimate that investing from birth could lead to a nearly $9,000 more in college savings, $65,000 more in home ownership savings, and $473,000 more in retirement savings compared to starting later in life. Even if families aren't in a financial position to contribute to a 529 account or add more money in a 538 account, they should at least take advantage of that initial $1,000 investment. The White House estimates that with a low rate of return and contributions of $2,500 a year, which is about half of what they're able to add into a Trump account, these accounts could be worth $95,000 by the time a child turns 18. But even with no contributions, even if you just take that $1,000, open the account, and add no money whatsoever, the seed investment alone could be worth nearly $6,000 by the time the child turns 18. And while that's a much smaller number, research has shown that even having a really small amount of college savings, much less than even $6,000, increases the likelihood of graduating college by a factor of 2.5 times. And even if post-secondary education isn't a goal of the child, 529 accounts can be converted into a Roth IRA and used for retirement or the purchase of a first home. And the Trump accounts at the age of 18 will convert to a traditional IRA, giving other options for the child as they turn to be an adult. So the bottom line is that these early investments can make a world of difference over a child's lifetime. And I urge you to pass this bill so that parents have the information they need to get started early. Thank you, and I'll stand for questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Whit Downing. Thank you for being here. Welcome to committee.
Thank you. Chairwoman and members of the committee, my name is Whit Downing, and I am an autistic Kansan, a self-advocate, and Vice President of Policy and Programming for the Kansas Council on Developmental Disabilities. I also use an ABLE account. The prior testimonies did a really good job of talking about why HB 2790 is so important, and I want to put a little bit of a personal spin on things as an ABLE account holder. Like many people with disabilities, navigating work, savings, and public benefits can be incredibly complicated. And for many years, people with disabilities were forced to live with a painful trade-off. If you tried to save money or earn more income, you risked losing the supports that allowed you to live and work in the community. And ABLE accounts help change that. My ABLE account helped me merge from part-time to full-time work without immediately losing the benefits that I had relied on for the entirety of my adult life. And if my family had received information about Kansas ABLE accounts at the time of my birth, it would have changed how we navigated disability systems from the very beginning. Even though I wasn't on Social Security at birth, having that information early would have sent my mom a powerful message very, very early on in life, that disability does not mean a lifetime of financial poverty. It would have shown my family that planning, saving, and dreaming were not off limits simply because I would one day soon be diagnosed with autism. I recently celebrated my 30th birthday. And as I reflect on that milestone, I think about how much could have been saved over time. And I don't say that because my family just had a bunch of extra money sitting around to save for me, but because we could have planned earlier. Small, consistent savings add up when families are given the right information and tools. HB 2790 is a no-cost bill. KDHE already collects this information. This is just giving it to the state treasurer. For families of children with disability, the early years are often filled with uncertainty, including medical appointments, evaluations, and learning how to navigate complex systems. This bill breaks down those silos, some silos, and gives families information about ABLE accounts along with the 2 other accounts at birth, and I cannot describe how important that is. Financial planning is rarely explained during those early years, and it's often introduced far too late. HB 2790 sends an important message to families of children with disabilities, and that message says you are allowed to plan, you are allowed to save, you are allowed to imagine a future that is full and expansive for your child, who will one day grow up to be an 18-year-old adult and have an ABLE account with some money in it. ABLE accounts allow savings to grow without jeopardizing critical disability benefits. HB 2790 helps ensure families know these tools exist before missed opportunities accumulate into lifelong barriers. For these reasons, I do respectfully ask the committee to support HB 2790. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration and your commitment to improving opportunities for Kansans with disabilities. And I'm happy to stand for questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you very much, Whit. Next up, we have Lola Cornell. Thank you for being here and welcome to committee.
Good morning, Chairwoman and members of the committee. Thank you. Let me try that again. Good morning, Chairwoman and members of the committee. My name is Lola Cornell. I am a college student, a self-advocate with Down syndrome, and I work for the Kansas Council on Developmental Disabilities as the advocacy coordinator. I recently celebrated my 21st birthday. I have an ABLE account that helps me save for the future, achieve my goals, and plan for bigger purchases. I save money each month by automatically transferring funds from my checking account. ABLE accounts help people with disabilities manage money, keep important benefits like SSI, pay for disability-related expenses, and live with greater independence, dignity, and self-determination. Families need to learn about these accounts early so they can plan for their child's future. If my parents learned about these earlier, I would have had a better experience with ABLE accounts. Early savings can give all children more opportunities, like me, build confidence, and encourage self-reliance, and teach money management skills. That's why we at ks.gov strongly support the passage of the Born to Invest Act, or House Bill 2790, which helps families invest in their child's success. Transportation is one of my biggest hurdles to being independent. Because of that, I hope to continue saving so one day I can access a driverless car, maybe in 10 years. My brother, who lives in San Francisco, sends me videos of riding in driverless taxis, and it gives me hope. If I save enough money in my ABLE account, I won't have to rely on others as much, and I can be proud of what I have accomplished. So far, I have used some of my ABLE savings to help pay for a family service trip where we volunteered and gave back to the community through a nonprofit organization. Experiences like this help me be more active in my community and build a more independent life. I hope you will continue to support and strengthen opportunities like ABLE accounts across Kansas, so people with disabilities like me can plan for our future and achieve our goals. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I will stand for questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you very much, Lola. Committee, do we have any questions for our conferees? All right, seeing none, then thank you all so much for being here today. And it doesn't look like we have any other written testimony or neutral or opponent. So with that, I will close the hearing on HB 2790. All right, committee, now it's time to get to work. We have several bills that we are working today. These are all bills that came over to us from the Senate, most of which we had heard in a House version, very similar. So first up, we have got, and you have to forgive me, I'm wearing the wrong glasses today. First up, we've got SB 356, and we will start with our reviser.
Senate Bill 356 deals with firearms hold agreements, and it provides some immunity for folks that enter into these agreements. The Senate version is considerably less detailed than what the House committee passed out of committee. House Bill 2501 actually passed the House 122-2, and it had a fair amount of additional provisions, but all focused around the firearms hold agreement. So I can try and go through the differences if you want, or we can, just depends on what the desires of the committee is.
Do we have a motion? Chair Kessler.
Thank you. I actually would like to make a motion to pass out SB 356 favorably.
We've got a second, and Representative Ruiz. Committee, any discussion? Chair Kessler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill is real similar. We had 4 amendments that we added to this bill last time. And honestly, I'd like to add that synopsis back on there. And I can let Mike kind of review some of that if you like. I have a copy here, Mike, if that's helpful. Oh, you got it pulled up, okay.
One of the additions to the bill was that if the hold agreement does not provide for disposition of the property, then it would be considered abandoned. It also provides that the individual firearms owner would have to provide the make, model, and serial number of each firearm to be held. It provides that there's more extensive immunity provisions that are listed. It requires that the firearms licensee destroy and not retain any digital or electronic records of any firearms hold agreement after they are finished. It provides that the voluntary exercise of a firearms owner of their right would not arise any type of presumption of negligence, fault, or recklessness, would not infer that the firearms owner lacked legal capacity or fitness to possess a firearm, and so forth. So it also preempts any municipalities from imposing any regulations or additional terms on the firearms hold agreement and so forth.
Chair Kessler, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that explanation?
Nope, I think you did a great job.
All right. Committee, do we have any questions? Representative Corbett.
Thank you, Chairman. I think our bill 2501 was far better than this and had protections in it that if the person that turned in the guns couldn't be found or passed away or in the hospital, a second contact could be given just in case to get the firearms back. And I don't know what the procedure would be, but I'd make a motion that we use the contents of 2501 instead of the contents of Senate Bill 356. Substitute motion.
Yeah, I was gonna, Mike, how would that be different than what Chair Kessler was asking for?
You could ask for a substitute bill and it would be to amend Senate Bill 356 by a substitute bill that would insert 2501, the contents, that's one way. Or you could just amend 356 with the provisions that are in 2501. So it's
Chair Kessler.
Representative Corbett, that's exactly what this does.
Okay.
That's exactly what he just read off. It took the 4 amendments that we had and puts them in there. It's yeah, pretty identical.
Good job, Vice Chair.
Great minds and all, right? Let's see, Representative Sanders.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So do we have any idea why they took these amendments off on the Senate side? And why do we think that if we put them back on that they'll be good with that?
This is the Senate version. It's the exact same. We altered ours, they didn't alter theirs. So we're just batting cleanup right now and fixing their bill.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Not seeing any other questions or comments. Well, yeah. Does he need to close or do I?
Either way.
No.
if it's okay with the committee, I'll just draft a substitute bill. So the 356 would be amended by a substitute, which would be easier to do than insert the amendments.
We do like to make it easy on our revisers and researchers. Oh, Representative Howell?
I just wanted, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to second the motion.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right. With that, we will go into a vote, and all in favor of passing out SB 356 favorably as amended, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, we'll consider that closed, passed. All right, committee, next up we have Senate Bill 364, and Mike, we'll let you give an overview.
Madam Chair, this bill deals with wildlife parks and hunting and fishing licenses. It provides that on or after the effective date of this act, the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks shall offer a resident senior combination hunting and fishing license for those that are 65 years of age or older, and the fee would not exceed 1/8 of the fee for general combination lifetime hunting and fishing. And it also provides the Senate version, provided that the 5 years of age and younger would be 1/3 of the fee for a general combination lifetime hunting and fishing. And for those 6 to 15, it would be 1/2 of the fee. And I think the information was that the fee is about $950, I believe. So 1/3 of that if you're 5 or younger, and half of that if you're 6 to 15.
Are there any questions for the reviser? Seeing none, do we have a motion? Nope. Oh, Representative Corbett. Nope. Chair Kessler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we pass out SB 364 favorably.
Do we have a second?
Second. Right here.
Oh.
Wilcott.
Wilcott, thank you.
And discussion.
And discussion, Representative Corbett.
Thank you, Chairman. I had Mike do an amendment. He can pass it out if he wants, but it's pretty simple. It uses the House language that we had. It says 5 years of age and younger upon payment of a license fee shall not exceed $300, and 5 to 16 should not exceed $400. The key part of that is the language that says exceed. And our goal, this is passed out 2 or 3 times on this building, but the main goal on this is to try to lock in the kids for this state and make a good base for retaining and recruiting new people for the outdoors. So, and that's my amendment.
Mike, do you have anything to add to that, or? Okay. Good job, Representative Corbett. Does anybody have any questions on the amendment?
Is there a second?
Is there a second? No. Representative Ward.
Any more discussion?
Is there any more discussion on the amendment? Chair Humphreys.
Thank you. So I missed how much a general combination lifetime hunting and fishing license is.
So in this amendment, the lifetime is fishing and hunting for youth 0 to 5 will be 300, and kid.
But
How much the adult is? I think
Yeah.
adult's about 960.
Okay.
So
It's around, the third was around 300, but you're locking in the 300.
the Senate bill raises them a little bit, but kind of
Okay.
leaves it open for continual increases in fees.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks.
Committee, any more discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote on Corbett's amendment. And all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, it looks like the ayes have it, and the amendment passes, and we're back on the bill. Committee, do we have any other conversation on the bill? All right, seeing none, then let's go ahead and take a vote on, Representative Osman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The original motion was to pass out the bill favorably. Now that there's an amendment, I think that you need to amend the motion.
Chair Kessler?
Thank you for that. I'd like to, amend that motion to, which one is this here? I make a motion to pass out SB 364 as amended favorably.
All right, we've got a second from Schwartberger. All right, committee, so is there any discussion? Then let's go ahead and vote on the underlying bill, and all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Looks like it passed, and thank you very much.
Don't hurt him. Don't hurt him.
And now we are going to open up SB 391. And with that, we'll let Mike go ahead and give us an update on that one as well.
Madam Chair and Committee, this bill deals with rental housing, and it would preempt cities and counties from adopting or enforcing any ordinance or resolution that prohibits landlords from refusing to lease privately owned single-family, multifamily, or commercial property to a person because of the person's source of income to pay rent, which consists in whole or in part of a financial payment of a housing choice voucher program or any successor program authorized by Chapter 8 of Title 42, or any other housing assistance program in which participation by the landlord is voluntary. It would restrict, that would restrict a landlord's ability to use or consider income qualifying methods, credit scores, credit reports, eviction history, property damage, and so on. Limits the amount of security deposits that could be required, or require the landlord to grant an automatic right of first refusal to tenants. And the ordinance or the bill would provide that any ordinance or resolution that was adopted prior to July 1, 2026 is null and void.
All right, committee, do we have any questions for the revisor? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Actually, just go right into discussion. We'll do the motion afterwards.
All right, then we're going to skip the motion for right now and go into discussion. Does anyone have any questions? Representative Mosley.
I actually have an amendment for this bill. And while Mike is passing it out, I'm going to explain my amendment. So essentially, first I want to just reiterate that the City of Lawrence does not require anyone to accept vouchers. The only requirement of landlords is for them to register with the city, but the voucher thing is something that's totally different. So I want to reiterate that. And also considering that Kansas has over $60,000 deficit in low-income housing. We have 8,800 of our K through 12 students who are who are unhoused. And the living wage, the average the living wage for a family of 4 in Kansas would be $27.52 amongst both parents, and that's not, we're missing the mark on those families. That so I wanted to change the language. So instead of and also considering that the ordinance has been in place in Lawrence for over 3 years and the sky is not falling, that is changing the language from prohibiting to requiring any city that adopts an ordinance to that's creative to help fill the gap to get folks off the street, that they need to submit an annual report to the legislature for any city or county that adopts it. And then also adopts it, and then the legislature will be able to adopt and enforce any kind of policy. So essentially what it just does is saying that if a city does, if an individual community has a local solution for their housing issue, that they're required to submit a report over prohibiting cities from having to have this statewide overreach. So it makes it where there's oversight, because once again, the City of Lawrence did not require anyone to take vouchers. It just only requirement of our landlords is that they have to register. And if they take vouchers, that if they decide to take vouchers and they decide to go through that process, that they can't deny someone solely on the voucher itself. So that's what my amendment does, and I am more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Mike, do you have anything to add to that? All right, good job. Committee, do we have any questions about the amendment or discussion? Representative Wagner?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I would stand in opposition to this amendment. This is effectively going to gut the import of the bill. Again, the Senate Bill 391 is actually much more focused than the bill that we had, the House bill that we had discussed and passed out, a month or two ago. This strictly focuses on the Chapter 8 voucher program. It does not prohibit any of the other alternative methods that persons might present to a landlord, but it specifically addresses the problem that if you tie Chapter 8 in with an anti-discrimination ordinance, that you have effectively made it where that if a person comes to a landlord who is otherwise, doesn't have a bad track record or whatever, and they submit this to you, that you would be required to jump into it, because otherwise you would be discriminating against that person on the basis of their requesting the voucher. And the whole point of what the landlords presented to us, I think very, very adequately, is that it's a voluntary program, normally, in a normal town it would be, where you can, if you want to accept it and accept the hassle, you can get the guaranteed government money from the person who would be the potential renter. But that if you don't want to, because there is substantive or substantial regulations involved, and you're jumping into this program with a lot of paperwork, that it is really to the good of the community that landlords be able to make that judgment independently and not have their hand forced by it being in a non-discrimination ordinance. And so with that, that would be my argument. Thank you.
Representative Meyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Respectfully, I would disagree with your assumption about the bill and the intent of the amendment. I think that respectfully, what my fellow representative is trying to do here is ensure that we still maintain local control when it comes to making sure that our cities and communities can determine how to best address their housing needs, rather than doing a blanket ban on cities and counties being able to address those needs. I think this is a very effective amendment. I think that it provides the legislature with what they were looking for. This way we can determine if there are any real issues going on with Section 8 or any of the other programs that were mentioned during the bill hearing, and would not tie the hands of cities and counties from being able to do the work that they need to do to address the issues that are affecting their communities. So as a state, I'm sure your community varies differently in their needs than mine in Overland Park, or the representative who brought the amendment in Lawrence. And I would think that this would be a good compromise, so that we could consider how this truly would, how these programs truly do affect cities across the state, and how these ordinances could impact them. So I would respectfully disagree, and I would support this amendment. Thank you.
Representative Corbett.
Thank you, Chairman. I think the bill, the baseline bill is pretty good. And the amendment kind of just adds more restrictions and strings to being a landlord. But the trouble they don't understand, the landlord is under the constant fear of, taxes, insurance, damage. And if you make it too crazy, the landlords will just fix them up and sell them, and you'll have nothing to rent. So I'd leave that door as open as wide as you can to see you can keep as many landlords and renters in Lawrence as forcing to maybe just sell their house and move on.
Representative Haskins.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Even though I believe we will always have something to rent, I'm just a point of clarification. We're just having a discussion. There has not been a motion to move, right? So there's no, can we add the amendment before we have the motion? Okay, thank you.
Representative Sawyer Clayton.
Yeah, I guess I just have a question. I've been in the legislature for a little bit, but are landlords forced to be landlords, or can they go have other jobs and make money in other ways? Can someone answer that for me? So no one is forcing these landlords to be landlords. They if they don't like it or find it risky, they could perhaps find other employment. Yes?
Representative Mosley.
Yes, I just want to also just remind my colleague who brought up rising property taxes and stuff like that. There's nothing in this amendment that prohibits a landlord from raising a rent. There's no protections that stops landlords from raising rent. This just says that if an individual community has a housing crisis, that they are able to have unique, they're able to implement unique programs or whatever programs that works, and that the legislature still is able to have oversight over it, because there's 8,800 of our students in the K through 12 system that's dealing with housing insecurity. We always talk about how much we care about children, in this body. And we also have a deficit of over 60,000 low-income housing units that is forcing people to have to get on vouchers and stuff along those lines. And I also want to remind individuals that nothing in the city of Lawrence's ordinance forces landlords to take Section 8 vouchers. The only thing that they have to do to be a landlord is just register with the city, but they can choose to just register to people who pay cash or with checks out of their own funds. No one is forcing them to take federal dollars. Thank you.
Chair Kessler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just kind of go back as I was looking through this again. I mean, we were able to pass our version of this bill out with no amendments on it. The Senate had their version that we're talking about now, passed the Senate with no amendments on it. And the bills are almost identical with the exception of one paragraph in there that we're still debating whether or not it was a good idea to have in there or not, but it's talking about veteran benefits on that one side. But I think we can probably pass this out amendment free as well. So that's where I'm at on that.
Chair Humphreys.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, I didn't have the benefit of hearing. So I'm just trying to understand, and maybe this is for the reviser or maybe the bringer of the amendment, but what I'm reading is the underlying bill prohibits any municipalities from these things. And this bill allows them all. So it's kind of the opposite, except that they have to do a report. That's true. So it's really quite the opposite.
It is a requirement that if any city or county has a ordinance or resolution that does any of these things, then they would have to make an annual report to certain committees of the legislature.
Okay, thank you. And just one quick follow-up question. I'm just curious, in the amendment, it says the report has to detail the success of the ordinance or resolution. Like, what would that look like? What does that mean, the success of that?
Representative Mosley, would you like to comment?
Yeah, so success can be whatever a community wants to define it. Success could be an increased usage of vouchers. It could be people no longer being housed, a drop in unhoused populations. It could also be a family stabilization. A city can choose how they want to measure that success, because I think that success looks very different in different communities. So for instance, in my community, because surrounding counties don't have services, people from like Franklin County end up on the streets of Mass Street. And so a success is that person now being housed and that person being stable in their housing and able to pay their rent and not being evicted because they are using a voucher. And so essentially success looks different in different communities. I'm pretty sure in Sedgwick County, success is going to look very different than it looks in Douglas County. So I think that what this does is allow individual communities to have solutions for their housing crisis, because we all can probably admit that there is a housing crisis going on in our state. And I think that taking away one of the many tools, or one of the few tools that gives a little bit of protection to renters, is kind of something that we shouldn't be doing in the direction when we have stagnant wages, we have increased costs for our families, we have grocery costs going up and everything. So I think that trying to have a blanket policy in a state that is vastly different. Reno County is different than Douglas County. For instance, in Reno County, 1 in 3 children are dealing with poverty and food insecurity. If Reno County was a county that had a solution that maybe someone didn't like, I don't think that me in Douglas County shouldn't be able to make policy that would impact that if they're making a solution that's helping out their people. And so essentially what I want to do with this amendment is just saying that individual cities are different, individual counties are different, and that if they do want to adopt policies that's going to try to close the gap for those who have not, the have-nots, the least amongst us, then there should be some oversight. Like, I can agree with the oversight part of it, but we shouldn't be blanketly getting rid of full policies that can help out people who are struggling in our state.
Yep, thank you for that explanation. And I mean, I do think I agree. What success is going to be for one person or family is going to be something different for someone else. So who is this a success for? I think is a good question, or is it a detriment to somebody? But thank you, I appreciate it, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Meyer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This question is for the revisor. Can you tell me again, I believe we discussed this in the hearing, but how many cities or counties in the state have ordinances of this nature?
I think the testimony was it's City of Lawrence is the only one that has a provision that this bill addresses.
Okay. Thank you for answering that.
Representative Haskins.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I just wanted to add, once from experience, once the chair kind of gives his opinion or her opinion, it's pretty much sealed. But I want to just add for people to consider is that this amendment, I feel, gives us the opportunity, even though I don't recommend it, but gives us an opportunity to go back to the Senate and work to try to accommodate both those that are for and those that are against, because I do know in our discussions, there were several individuals on the committee that were like, why should we pass this bill just because Lawrence is doing something? Because this will impact other cities, all the cities in the state of Kansas. So I think it would be a good thing for us to support. I appreciate the representative from Lawrence bringing it, and I just want you to consider that, that we really don't know if there is a problem. We know that there are complaints from Lawrence, but we don't know if there's a problem. And this law is not a law for today, it's a law for 30, 40 years from now. So we are effectively taking away decision rights from both consumers and businesses in generations to come based on this. And I think we need to move slowly. So I support this amendment. Thank you.
All right, Representative Mosley, would you like to move your amendment? And we'll need a second.
Yes, I would like to move my amendment. Thank you.
And second by Representative Meyer. Any other comments or questions on the amendment? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote on the amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. The noes have it. Would anyone like theirs recorded? Mosley? Meyer? Looks like all of them, and they were yeses. All right, guys, we're back on the bill, and is there any more discussion? Nope.
Have we had a motion for the bill?
Not yet. We're still in discussion.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Osmond?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I don't necessarily see the need for this bill. All it is doing is trying to affect one particular municipality. And I remember we tried to do this a number of years ago with the plastic ban. This is the closest approximation I think that I could find to it. The plastic ban, where it wasn't even a municipal ordinance, it was the concept of a municipal ordinance. And we as the legislature jumped on it and said, no, municipality, you can't even think about something. We're going to override it. That's kind of what's happening here is municipality is doing what municipalities do because it's within their purview, and we as the legislature aren't even trying to affect all municipalities. We're jumping on one. And I don't represent Lawrence. I don't necessarily have a dog in the fight other than the fact that I live in a city. We all live in a city. And we're a county, and we represent the area there. And I don't want the Kansas State Legislature coming in and saying, Overland Park, we don't like the municipal ordinance that you did. We're going to spend our time and effort and money trying to override that. It's beyond just a matter of local control. It's a question of just why are we bothering with this? And I go back to how I look at bills, and I think I've mentioned this before, but I basically have a very, very simple two-part test on whether I like a bill or not. Number one, is there a harm? Is there an established harm? And number two, does this bill solve for that harm? We don't even have part one of that. Is there a harm in the status quo? We have landlords that have come here, some landlords that have come here and say, yeah, we don't like it. They can't establish a harm, they just don't like it. They don't like an additional requirement. Okay, fine, but is there a harm? We have other landlords that have come here and said, yeah, there's a requirement. I don't see the harm. I don't see a problem with doing this. I would have loved the amendment because guess what? We've had the ordinance from Lawrence for 3 years. We could have had a report to the legislature to actually establish, is there a definitive harm? But now we don't have that ability. We don't have that knowledge. So we're basing it off of feelings. And I don't like making legislation off of feelings. I like making legislation off of facts. So for that reason, I do not support this bill.
Chair Kessler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I kind of said that we'd pass this out amendment free, and so did the Senate, but the Senate actually left out that paragraph. I'm going to kind of come back to that real quick. They left out the paragraph when it kind of talks to that nothing in this section shall prevent a city from adopting or maintaining enforcement ordinance or resolution that prohibits landlords from discriminating against a tenant perspective solely on the basis that such tenant is a recipient of veterans benefits. So I'm going to make a amendment to add that veterans piece back in there.
Do I have a second? All right, Bergkamp, Representative Bergkamp. All right. Committee, this is the exact same wording that was in our version of this. Do we have any discussion? Do we have any questions? Representative Howe.
Yeah, so you're saying this was included in the House version of the bill. Was that in the original House text, or was it amended into?
It was in the original House bill.
Okay.
Seeing no more discussion, we're going to go ahead and vote on this amendment. All those in favor of adding the veterans piece back in, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. All right, motion passes, and we're back on the bill. Is there any more discussion on the bill itself? Representative Mosley.
Thank you. Once again, I want to remind everyone that we have 8,800 students who are unhoused in our state. We also have people who are coming out of our domestic violence center. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my friend who came from domestic violence. I have a friend who on her 18th birthday, she dropped out of high school and she went down to Wichita and was trafficked out of Wichita. She was in sex trafficking and in domestic violence relationships for about the next 15 years of her life. She got out of her domestic violence situation and ended up in another domestic violence situation and eventually made her way to Lawrence, where she found Family Promise, which is one of our domestic violence center or family housing centers in our community, because Lawrence has services for our folks when they need help. She was able to get a voucher and get housed, and then eventually she made her way to Topeka, where she is now housed in Topeka. This bill hurts people like my friend, who is a survivor of domestic violence and sex trafficking. And this bill also hurts people who are seniors on Social Security or disability ability students on college stipends, workers who earn tip wages, and union workers on strikes. Because this really limits what people can do and the protections of our renters. We have a deficit in our state of over 60,000 low-income housing. I know many of you don't care because you don't have to worry about low-income housing, but I know folks who deal with low-income housing. So this bill is really going to hurt folks going forward in the future. And if you are blessed enough to not know anyone who's been a survivor of human trafficking, or are blessed enough to not know anyone who is a survivor of domestic violence, are blessed enough to not know anyone who is a senior who is struggling to find who's struggling to find affordable housing, because our fastest growing unhoused community right now are people over the age of 55, people who worked their whole lives, who never saw themselves being unhoused. And you can go look that up. I'm not making this up. There's the fastest growing is unhoused individuals, are senior citizens. Many of you are in that age demographic, by the way. So with that being said, you can passing this bill is going to be a great sin and staying on this committee. But you guys can do what you want to do, and I'm done. Thank you.
Representative Kessler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I'd like to make a motion to pass out SB 391 as amended favorably.
Do I have a second? Representative Bergkamp. All right, committee. With all of that discussion, I will remind the committee that the bill itself says that no city or county shall adopt or enforce any ordinance or resolution that prohibits, which means that a landlord could still choose, they could opt in to offer this service to their tenants. They just can't be forced into it. With that, we will take a vote on passing out SB 391 favorably as amended. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
And it looks like the ayes have it. Motion passed, and great work today. Oh, we're going to record votes on SB 391. No for Mosley. No for Representative Meyer. All right. Great work, committee. Thank you very much for taking it easy on me today. With that, we are adjourned.